Oi there, everyone! Welcome to another deep dive with us. This time, we're going to tackle something a lot of you have probably been wondering about, especially if you're looking to break into this field. We're going to talk about how to ace your Naval Architect interview. And of course, we'll be using RoleCatcher's awesome resources to really help guide us through that.
Yeah, you got to know the field for sure, but it's
Yeah.
really about, convincing those interviewers that you're ready to make a splash.
Right.
So we'll definitely be covering those, classic questions you're likely to get hit with. But I also want to sprinkle in some insights about the career itself and, how Rollcatcher can kind of be your secret weapon in this whole interview process.
Okay, so let's just set the stage here, right? We're talking about naval architects. These are the folks who design everything.
Yeah.
From the sleekest yachts you can imagine to the most massive cargo ships, even submarines.
Oh yeah, definitely. And to really nail those interviews, Rollcatcher's career guide actually highlights three main areas interviewers are going to zero in on. Design, which makes sense. Building and construction, you got to know how to put it all together.
Right.
And then engineering and technology.
Feel like those are like the foundation.
Yeah, that's your bread and butter right there.
Absolutely. So, okay, this is where Rollcatcher's school guides can be super helpful, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like they can give you, that deep dive knowledge
Yeah.
before you even like step into the interview room.
Absolutely.
It's like having a cheat sheet, but way cooler.
Way cooler. Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into some real deal questions you might encounter. I feel like this one's pretty common. Can you explain the process of designing a ship from start to finish?
Okay, yeah, that's a big one. And I think for this one, it's all about having a structured approach.
Yeah.
You don't want to just sort of jump into the deep end.
Right, right.
You want to walk them through those phases, from that conceptual design to that preliminary design, then into the detailed design and all the way to production.
Okay, so it's like taking them on a journey.
Exactly, exactly. And here's a little pro tip. Don't forget to mention those external factors.
Oh?
Things like operational needs, obviously safety regulations, the budget,
Uh-huh.
and of course materials.
That makes sense.
That really shows them you're thinking big picture.
It's like you're not just designing the ship, you're thinking about like the whole ocean it's sailing in.
Exactly, yeah, the whole context, the
Yeah.
whole environment.
Okay. So what about safety? Because I feel like they'll probably ask us something like, how do you ensure that a ship is stable and safe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where it's really important to kind of showcase your knowledge of the different stability types.
Mm-hmm.
You got longitudinal stability, transverse stability, dynamic stability, and it's good to briefly explain each one, not just throw the terms out there.
Right, right. Like don't just assume they know what you mean.
Exactly.
Actually explain it.
Yeah.
And what about, I don't know, think about those real world safety features.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
watertight compartments, lifeboat.
Oh yeah, for sure. Firefighting systems. I mean, all that stuff.
Yeah, like all the practical stuff.
Right.
That shows you're like really thinking about it from a, safety conscious perspective. And I think this is where RoleCatcher's AI can actually be really, really helpful.
Oh, for sure.
So imagine like the job description specifically mentions, let's say, a tanker.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The AI can actually help tailor your answers.
Absolutely.
Pulls in relevant examples, from the skill guides. And so you sound like, a total tanker expert.
Yeah, it's like having a personalized prep team in your pocket.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do another one. Can you explain the differences between a monohull and a multi-hull ship?
All right. Well, this is a chance to be concise but also interesting. I think you start with, the basic structural difference.
Right.
One hull versus multiple hulls.
Okay.
But then you pivot to the why. Why would you choose one over the other? So, you discuss the pros and cons of each design. So things like speed, maneuverability, cost. And, you relate that back to the type of work the company actually does.
So like if you're interviewing with, let's say, a company that builds high-speed ferries, you'd really want to emphasize those advantages of multi-hulls, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It shows that you've done your research, you've thought about it, and how your knowledge applies to their specific needs.
Right. Okay, I like that. It makes total sense. Let's tackle another one. This is about materials. Can you explain how you would go about selecting the appropriate materials for a ship's construction? So, like, what are you thinking about?
Yeah. Well, this one is all about showcasing your analytical skills. So, When you're thinking about this, you got to consider factors like the strength of the material, the weight, the cost, corrosion is a big one, the marine environment, and then how all those factors relate to what the ship is actually going to be used for, its purpose.
Okay. So don't just list those factors out.
Right.
Give like a specific example.
Yeah, give an example.
So for example, a high-speed ferry, you might prioritize lightweight aluminum.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas a tanker, you'd probably go for, durable steel.
Yeah, you need that robustness.
Right.
And, this is another spot where RoleCatcher's AI can really help.
Oh, okay. How so?
It can actually provide feedback on your answers. So, let's say you give your answer, the AI might analyze it and say, hey, you might also want to mention the fire-resistant properties of certain materials, especially if you're talking about, a passenger ship. It gives you that extra edge.
It's like having a virtual mentor, just like refining your answers. Okay, that's really cool. Now, those behavioral questions, I feel like those can be a little tricky. Like, can you describe a challenging project you have worked on and how you overcame any obstacles?
Okay, yeah, story time.
Yeah.
For this one, you want to pick a project that really showcases those key skills they're looking for.
Okay.
And you can find those in the job description. And get this, RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you find the perfect match.
Wait, seriously?
From your past work experience.
The AI can do that?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Okay, wow.
It saves you so much time and stress.
That's amazing.
Because it's like having a research assistant that just combs through your whole career and picks out those most impactful examples for this particular job.
Okay, that's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, once you've got that story, you want to structure your answer, classic problem, solution, outcome. And don't forget to highlight, your leadership skills.
Right.
And how you worked as part of a team.
Yeah, because it's not just about what you did.
Right.
It's how you did it.
Exactly.
And who you did it with.
Right. Yeah, that collaboration, it's especially naval architecture, it's crucial.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
But this deep dive is far from over. We've got more questions to tackle, and we're going to uncover even more insights. So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue to explore the exciting world of Naval Architect interview prep.
Welcome back. Before we really jumped into those interview questions, we're talking about how naval architects work. It goes way beyond just the design phase.
Right.
And RoleCatcher's Career Guide actually digs into that.
Right.
It kind of maps out the difference between what you might be doing, when you're first starting out, those entry-level tasks, versus what you might be tackling as a more senior architect.
Right, yeah. It's like, I think it's helpful to have that vision, like, okay, where can this career actually take me?
Yeah, exactly. Gives you something to aim for.
What other kind of, insights did you find in the guide?
Well, one thing that stood out was it really, really emphasizes that continuous learning.
Okay.
It even mentions the Society of Naval Architects and Marine Engineers, CISNAE.
Okay.
I mean, just joining those kinds of groups, it shows that you're serious about, staying up to date, keeping those skills sharp.
Yeah, it's like showing initiative, right?
Exactly. Yeah, like you're not just there for a job.
Right.
You're there for a career.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, back to those interview questions. What about this one? How do you ensure that a ship's propulsion system is efficient and effective?
Okay, so this one, it goes a little deeper than just knowing, the different parts of a propulsion system.
Okay, yeah.
I think you want to start by explaining, the different types of propulsion systems out there.
Okay.
So you got your diesel engines, you got gas turbines, you got electric motors.
Right.
And then you talk about, well, what makes them efficient? What are we looking at? Fuel consumption, power output. You can even bring in the environmental impact, which is becoming increasingly important these days.
Right, like it's not just about making the ship move, it's making it move smartly.
Exactly, yeah. And responsibly.
Yeah. Okay, so what if they kind of follow up on that and they're like, okay, so what are the trade-offs involved in selecting, a particular propulsion system?
Okay, well then this is where you really get to show off those analytical skills. You could say something like, okay, a diesel engine that might be super fuel efficient, but a gas turbine that's going to give you that higher power output for speed.
Okay.
It's all about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Balancing the ship's specific needs
Right.
with the best available technology.
It's like finding that best fit, just like with materials.
Exactly. Yeah. All ties together.
It all comes together. Okay. Speaking of working together,
Mm.
what about this question? Can you describe the role of a naval architect in a shipbuilding project?
Okay, yeah, I think it's tempting to just say, well, I designed the ship.
Yeah.
But it's so much more collaborative than that.
Uh-huh.
You want to emphasize how you're going to be working with engineers, with the builders, even with the client throughout that whole process from start to finish.
It's like you're the conductor of an orchestra,
Yeah, I like that.
bringing all the different instruments together.
Exactly, yeah. For this, beautiful symphony.
Except it's a ship.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's a great analogy. You really want to highlight, those communication skills, your ability to work as part of a team. And maybe even, give a specific example of a time when you collaborated on a particularly challenging project and, mention the specific roles and contributions of everyone involved.
Right. Yeah, because teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in naval architecture.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get a little wavy with this one.
Yeah.
Can you explain the different types of ship motions and how they affect ship design?
Okay. Don't worry, we're not going to get seasick here.
I hope not.
But yeah, you want to talk about those 6 degrees of freedom?
Okay.
So you got roll, pitch, yaw,
Okay.
heave, sway, and surge.
Those are some good words.
Yeah, and how each of those motions can actually impact the ship's design. So, for example, minimizing roll, that's going to keep those passengers comfortable.
Right, less seasickness.
Exactly, yeah. Reducing pitch, that's going to help with stability. So it's really about designing a ship that can gracefully handle those ups and downs of the ocean.
Right, so it can, kind of ride those waves smoothly.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. What if they kind of dig a little deeper and they're like, okay, so how do you actually mitigate the negative effects of those motions, on passengers or cargo?
All right, well, this is where you really get to showcase your problem-solving skills.
Well.
You talk about things like stabilizers, you can talk about anti-rolling tanks,
Okay.
or even, just clever weight distribution within the ship itself.
So it's not enough to just, know the motions. You have to know how to deal with them.
Right, exactly, yeah. You got to be able to come up with those solutions.
Okay, cool. Now, before we get, too far ahead of ourselves, I know RoleCatcher's career guide, it also mentions some specialization options.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Which I think is really interesting, when you're thinking about your career path.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, do you see yourself designing, luxury yachts? Or maybe you're more interested in, offshore energy structures?
Mm-hmm.
Researching those different specializations, it can really help you kind of tailor your answers.
Yeah, for sure.
To specific companies.
It shows, again, you've done your homework. You're thinking about how you fit in.
Right. Okay, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
All right, back to the hot seat. Can you explain the concept of hydrodynamics and how it relates to ship design? Now, that sounds a little intimidating.
It does sound a little complex, but it's not as scary as it sounds.
Okay.
You can think of hydrodynamics as basically the study of how water moves and how objects behave in water.
Okay.
And in ship design, hydrodynamics helps us understand things like drag, lift, wave resistance.
Okay.
And all of those things, they're going to affect the ship's speed, its efficiency, and how stable it is.
So it's like figure out how to make the ship glide through the water with the least amount of resistance.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We want to minimize that resistance.
Right. And we want to maximize efficiency.
Right. Okay.
And this is actually where, tools like computational fluid dynamics come in.
Oh, okay.
They allow us to, analyze and optimize a ship's performance.
It's like putting the ship in a virtual water tunnel.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, that's cool. What if they then say, okay, so how would you use those hydrodynamic principles to actually improve the fuel efficiency of, let's say, a cargo ship?
Okay, so now's your chance to get specific.
Okay.
Talk about things like optimizing the hull form to reduce that drag, using those energy-efficient propulsion systems. You can even talk about, applying special coatings to the hull to reduce friction.
So it's like a mix of smart design, efficient technology, and then those little details, a scuffle coating.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes a great naval architect.
Okay.
It's someone who can see how all those pieces, all those little details connect to create a truly successful vessel.
Yeah, thinking holistically.
Exactly, yeah. And and again, RoleCatcher's AI, it can be a huge help in kind of fine-tuning those answers.
Okay.
To really match what those companies are looking for.
Speaking of RoleCatcher, I'm curious, how does its AI help with tailoring answers?
Okay, so let's say you're applying to a company that's, they're really big on sustainability.
All right.
The AI can actually analyze that job description, and it can highlight those keywords, things like environmental impact, fuel efficiency, green technologies.
So it's like having like a little assistant being like, hey, make sure you mention this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little nudge in the right direction.
Okay.
And it can even give you feedback on whether you've, effectively incorporated those keywords into your answers.
So it's like making sure you're hitting those right notes.
Exactly. Yeah, it takes the guesswork out of it.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is.
Okay, well, we've covered a lot,
We have.
but we're not done yet. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll wrap up this whole Naval Architect interview prep journey
Yeah, looking forward to it.
with some final tips and strategies. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We've really gone through a lot, tons of those tough Naval Architect interview questions.
We have.
And now I feel like it's time for that final push, right?
Yeah, this is where you go from being just, a knowledgeable candidate to someone they really remember.
Okay, yeah. How do we do that?
It's about showing that passion.
Okay.
Those little things that make you that make you stand out.
So, okay, we've got the knowledge, right? We've been through all that.
Right.
But how do we present it in a way that really shines?
I think you got to think of it this way. Anyone can memorize facts and figures.
Right.
But when you genuinely light up when you're talking about ship design,
Uh-huh.
that's contagious, Let that enthusiasm show.
So it's like channel your inner ship nerd.
Exactly, yeah. Let that flag fly.
Okay, I could do that.
Yeah.
But how do we, go beyond just the passion and really showcase, what makes us unique?
Think back to those projects in your career where you really made a difference.
Okay.
Did you lead a team that developed like a groundbreaking new propulsion system?
Okay.
Have you really focused on designing those eco-friendly, sustainable vessels? Those are the stories that are going to set you apart.
Yeah. It's like saying, hey, I'm not just textbook smart. I've actually done this stuff.
Right. Yeah. And you care about it.
Yeah. What about asking questions
Oh, yeah.
at the end of the interview?
Super important.
Any tips there?
Asking thoughtful questions is it's key. It really shows you're engaged.
Right.
You're thinking critically, and focus on questions that show you've actually you've done your research on the company.
So I could say something like, hey, I saw that you're working on developing autonomous ships.
Perfect. Yeah.
What are some of the the biggest challenges you're facing in that area?
Exactly. Yeah. That shows you're not just there for any job, you're interested in their work.
Right.
And how you can contribute to it.
Yeah. Wait, this has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much, not just about acing the interview, but just about the whole world of naval architecture.
It's a fascinating field.
It is. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before they, set sail on their career journeys?
Remember, a well-prepared candidate is a confident candidate.
That's true.
And, RoleCatcher, those AI tools, they can really help you tailor your answers, practice your delivery. So use those resources, believe in yourself, and go make some waves.
Yeah, go make a splash. And don't forget to check out the show notes for links to all those amazing RoleCatcher tools we've mentioned. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive, and good luck out there, future naval architects.